Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Just Talk Okay. I'm here, my psychic is here, and so is our guest. Let's get started. Who do we have on today's show?
Today we have one amazing talent. He's a filmmaker, comic book writer, martial artist, entrepreneur, and much more. Jan Lucanus.
Wow, he really does it all.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to hear his story. But before we get started, let's give a shout out to our sponsors, Fade Life Clothing, BCK Online, and Link PR. Fade Life Clothing is a unique clothing line out of Atlanta, Georgia. It returns those who love intoxicating style.
And BCK Online is a digital online magazine that keeps you in the know and up to date on the lives of young entertainers, rising stars, parents, and much more.
And Link PR is definitely the missing link to your success in the entertainment industry. I'm glad Fade Life Clothing, BCK Online, and Link PR are all back for another season. Now then, go grab your snacks, sit back, relax, and as always, enjoy the show. Jan, welcome to the show. We're glad you could join us for an episode of Just Talk Okay.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
All right, thank you for being on. Let's get into it. Okay, so you're an award-winning producer, director, action choreographer. Tell us how you get started in the industry overall.
I grew up in the comic book business, and both my parents are martial artists. So for the most part, movement and storytelling and media have always been interconnected for me. So my dad was a comic critic and writer, and his mentor was the editor-in-chief of Marvel, Jim Shooter. So I'd spent a lot of time going to the Marvel offices when I was a kid, and then Jim started Valiant, and I would go there with my dad, and then he left Valiant and left Valiant in a turbulent way, and that was very much the foundation of my father encouraging me to start a company. But Jim started another imprint called Defiant Comics, and he and my dad did The Good Guys there, which was the first crowdsourced superhero book where every character drawn into the comic book was crowdsourced. There were fans who sent their photo in, and they drew the fans into the comic. And just watching my dad go through these comic book experiences, and he wrote a Silver Surfer novel that had a bunch of red tape attached to it that didn't get published, seeing my dad be upset when I was a little kid on something that he worked on for several years of my childhood really inspired me it catalyzed me to boycott Marvel for a while. Oh. And when I always felt like everybody should be able to contribute to these larger storylines, and didn't understand why my dad, like, his story couldn't be part of the larger story. So all that just kind of stayed in my heart, and I went to code video games when I was in high school. And
that's cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was great, and but also it's. I did not have the guidance that I guess it wasn't for me. I didn't feel like I really understood the teachers. And so I just paid someone to do my final project, and that's called executive.
That's a whole other podcast, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's called executive producing in the film world. So I went from video games to filmmaking, and in high school, and I went to the New York Film Academy's first ever high school program in New York. And I started working on professional sets at 17 because of that. And my teachers were at NYU, so they walked me into NYU. Mike Sandoval in particular, who became the chair of the New York Film Academy. He was a student then at the NYU, and he walked me in, said, "Jan wants to go here," and introduced me to the dean, and it was just a very clear path for me that I was very grateful for. So, and the intention was to go into college coming out with a script, but because of my comic book background, a feature script as I was instructed by my mentors. So, like, you want to come out of school with your feature script so that you can go and make your first feature film, so you can have this career as a director. But I grew up in comic books, so it made sense to come out with a franchise. Well,
Right.
I need to come out of school with an idea that can be comic books and toys, and can have multiple spin-offs and essentially have a world. And Justice for Hire was my senior thesis film, and that years later has not only become a record-setting comic book, but became our first show that we're producing with a global community at Real World. So it's that became my calling card. Justice for Hire, my senior thesis film. The comic books augmented that and got us lots more work across entertainment. I started my production company while I was at NYU, so everything I did was under the Creative Impulse Entertainment banner, and I would just run around Hollywood, doing work as Creative Impulse, and got a lot of wonderful contacts. So, but all of that led to Real World, and all of that led to knowing a bunch of wonderful human beings, and seeing that every industry has kind of the same problem. They just call it something by a different name. And so if we could build a tool to help solve that problem, then we're in a very advantageous position. And that's what we built with Real World.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing story.
That is, definitely. As a director, I know we touched on this earlier, but what types of projects do you like to take on and why?
Interesting. Action is my main, the thing I love the most. And emotional action to me is becoming more and more interesting, and that's because I've been around so much action camera work and have been shooting action films since I was a teenager. So seeing how many people are creating amazing, awesome camera work and fight scenes on social media right now, on Instagram and TikTok. And YouTube, and just being like, like I remember doing that when I was a teenager too, but now there's a lot, the volume has been raised on it, and that's awesome. I'm always looking to fill the gap, to fill the hole. And that's something that as an athlete, I coach the US Tai Chi push hands team, and that's a major component of my life. And that's part of the strategy, is how you win against an opponent as you fill the void that they've left. And so when it comes to any projects, I'm really always looking for action, and I'm more interested now in the feelings that catalyze the big moments in cinema that we love. I think Endgame is a great example where I think we saw as a global as a global culture of fandom, we saw all these heroes we see ourselves in united together on screen. And how can, what led to that? So many emotional beats led to that one moment. And
that is true.
So how can we sit and understand that, and how can we recreate? I think as fans and as moviegoers, we're so bored of so many of the tropes of especially of Hollywood filmmaking, because Hollywood really sets the standard for the rest of the world, and we're seeing the rest of the world take our patterns and outdo us in certain ways with those same techniques. So how can we continue to push the envelope as trendsetters? And I really think that the answer is going to be in the emotional, the understanding of the emotional arcs, and I think Iron Man is a great example of a hero that allowed, gave permission to other heroes, to the whole genre, to be a little bit more emotionally intelligent. So how can we look at emotional intelligence when it comes to action, my favorite genre, and make emotional intelligence a key driving force in our storytelling? So that is my favorite projects are action, but it's action with an emotional core.
Okay.
That's an amazing answer. I'm like, okay, so what movie are we gonna watch? What are you gonna do, Jan? Let me see it.
Honestly, I highly recommend RRR. I'm sure you've heard of it. Biggest movie in the world this year, from India, and it's on Netflix. It's an action film, and it's really important because not since Endgame have I seen, or I think we as a culture have seen, people celebrating dancing in theaters, freaking out, and people are flipping. I mean, there's people are throwing ticker tape parades in the theater because of this one film.
Okay,
And
now what's it called again? RRR?
yeah, 3 R's. RRR.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere right now on like all of the major like Honest Trailer, Pitch Meeting, all the major the cinema review sites have started picking it up, and it's box office wise, it's I think it's been the biggest movie of the year.
Wow.
Or at least among them. Or a few months ago, it was at least prior to Top Gun Maverick.
Okay. Definitely going to put that on the watch list today.
Yeah, highly rated. It's great. It's awesome.
Now, what would you say has been your most challenging project to ever make?
My most challenging project. I mean, I've had so many different projects that have each had their own challenges that there's been growth. I'd say Real World right now is probably because it's an ecosystem rather than a film. Are you asking about a film or
just in general?
In general, yeah, I'd say Real World, and because of the fact that it is my life's work, it really is the culmination of all my experience across films, comic, music, gaming, etc. I've been working on this consciously since 2011, honestly.
Wow.
And so 11 years. And in 2014, it really crystallized. I still didn't have the name Real World, but I was spending time at Universal Music Group incubating the idea. And really saying, hey, look, if you want to create the next wave in media, is going to be storytelling together as a community. And cinematic storytelling, like all these behaviors that we love on social media are going to bleed into our everyday lives and how we perceive story. And so how can we make sure that the people who are growing up contributing to every social network is a story we are telling together. It's not framed that way, but that's what it is. So if we can look at social networks as massive stories, how can we say, how can we guide the larger story so that everyone is working toward the same goal? And an example of that is what Real World's doing with Justice for Hire as our first show. We're like, hey, we're all making one show together. Anyone can be part of it right from their phone, and you can join the cast, make your own scenes. But there is there's seasonal story arcs, and so there are different missions and challenges that you can take on. That when you do these scenes, they help progress us as a community toward that big event at the end of the season. And to have that story structure adapted to a social media experience where anybody can just shoot a scene and perform right from their phone, like that to me is incredibly inclusive and fun. But getting there, that's where the challenges have been. I've been at some of the top startup incubators and accelerators and have had challenges for years. People seeing the vision, because for a long time it was ahead of its time. It wasn't until the pandemic where people started calling me saying, hey, that cinematic social network you guys are working on, like it seems like now's the time. I'm like, oh yeah.
And that's true. A lot of
Everyone was
amazing things came out of the pandemic. So yeah.
Do you feel that having been in the front of the camera has helped you behind the camera?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so grateful for my acting teachers at NYU, and after I did some private training afterward as well, and a bunch of the actors that I worked with, I continued to work with from school and afterward. So being able to, I'll say this, we just shot a video with, thanks to Lisa actually, with Cato Roberts.
Oh wow!
And so Cato is he's got his own Justice for Hire character, and for folks that I didn't know about Darman, like on YouTube, so a bunch of the younger JFH fans are like, oh, it's the kid from Darman. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let me look at what they're talking about. I followed on YouTube, subscribed on YouTube. I'm like, okay, let me check this out. But one of the really interesting things about Cato that I got just from looking at the one video that we shot with him was how intentional the messages that he gave the camera are. I think it's really important for a director to step in front of the camera and understand that at each moment there's intention behind what you're delivering. Right. And you might be able to talk about it. You might be able to tell an actor what you want, and then leave it up to them to interpret. But to really know, it's so similar to martial arts in terms of especially kung fu, because kung fu can be so performative, and to know that this expression means this in this moment. So I think anytime you have some sort of physical language of communication, it's going to help your directorial experience, because the intent behind movement and the intent behind the eyes still are generated from the same source inside the human being. And to be able to gain that much more of a control over that with your own self-discipline is just benefits articulation across all types of forms of communication.
That's true.
That is true.
Now, you brought up martial arts, and you kind of said something right there, that the movement of it. And to me, it's beautiful. Any martial art, I could just sit there and watch
it all day. Yeah.
It looks like a dance. It looks like people are fighting. They're fighting,
but
they're dancing. It looks, it's beautiful to me. So you were raised in a family of martial artists. And of course, as you mentioned, you are one. Tell us how that experience kind of has developed you into, who you are. It's a part of your career. So tell us all about that.
I loved, it was great and comforting being a baby in a stroller and just being super warm on a overcast day and looking out and seeing both my parents doing like Tai Chi and Kung Fu with their martial arts teachers and fellow students. And I just remember that warmth, and I remember the cool air and inhaling it and realizing, so I remember being a baby and loving that. And I, there's a big part of me that I'm deeply appreciative for the life that my parents gave me, because pretty much everything I do is I picked up what they gave me and have been doing my best to refine and take it to my own level. There's parts of me that wish that I was pushed more in martial arts as a kid, because it wasn't until I was probably 15, 16 that I started getting back into training. I stopped between ages 9 and 18 and gained a significant amount of weight and felt waves of depression, etc. And I wish I had more of that training in my life, and it didn't feel accessible to me the way it is now. Right. And that it was when I was a kid. So, and I'm appreciative for that as well, because the challenges there help me to identify with other people who go through those challenges. I honestly feel like it's a gift, because it helped me, again, be more empathetic. And so I love the martial training. I love the experiences that I had, even the challenges I'm grateful for. But it's the combination of martial arts and being able to tell a story, and wanting to see martial arts as a story that really started helping me in high school, when I was training at the USA Shaolin Temple, and I was surrounded by a bunch of celebrities that were just there because the monk was like one of the cool people in town that everyone wanted to be around, the head monk of the school. And I was just around professional actors. So I would, I'm a kid at New York Film Academy, and I have access to a 16 millimeter film camera, Arriflex camera. And I'm just like, hey, you guys want to be in an action film? And everyone would always say yes to me. And having professional actors always say yes to me, and having a bunch of people who are just martial arts enthusiasts who, are not actors at all, who also loved the genre and just want to be in it too, to be able to take the professionals and the non-professionals and to unite over something we all love and to get them all in front of the camera together, that has always been a part of my filmmaker's journey. That's always been a part of my experience. I've never known anything outside of that. So I am really, really grateful that all of my pretty much all of my entertainment, my significant milestone entertainment relationships, the ones that have opened up massive doors for me and introduced me to a bunch of other wonderful people and experiences, they've all come from martial arts. And literally all of them. So, and even our fancy board of advisors right now, several of those folks, you don't know as martial artists, but they train. And so to be able to have that quiet connection and that knowing with another human being of like, oh yeah, we understand the discipline, we understand the approach, we understand the perspective, like that to me is powerful. And I have to remind myself that that's been my journey, because when I forget that, I can find more, you can find the things that divide you with others, or you can find the things that unite you with others. And I do my best to keep in mind that there's this very, very powerful thing that makes any place in the world that trains my home.
That's true.
That's true.
That is true.
That is true. So I know you touched on this earlier, but your company, Real World, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we are the first social film studio. We are all about making movies and shows with the world, and we built a cinematic social network so that anybody can make movies and shows right from their phone together as a community. So our first show that we've produced like that is Justice for Hire, and our first episode made with the community went viral on TikTok and got 7.5 million views.
Wow.
And showed us that people we got 1 million overnight, and that was like kind of mind blowing. And we were like, okay, that's cool. And it just kept going, and thousands of people sharing it and commenting on it, and which is actually more valuable than the view count. And to see that type of audience response, not just for liking what the content, but recognizing that it was something that we can do together, like that was a massive data point, proof point for us, because it just validated a lot of things that we already knew for our larger community of Hollywood professionals that were like, oh, well, let's see. Oh my God, 7.5 million views. Oh, that's cool.
That got their attention real fast.
Yeah.
I mean, like literally within a few days, we had partnerships that we executed on like right away, and just helped to elevate a lot of what we're doing. But right now the main focus is we're on WeFunder with our first crowdfunding campaign. This is equity crowdfunding that anybody can buy stock in the company and own part of the company and our patent pending technology. And what the social network is, to be clear, is a social network with guidance. That means that you get directorial input from our platform anytime you make a video. So it's helping you choose your role. It's helping you perform in a scene. It's helping you by saying, hey, this is where to place the camera, do one shot, do multiple shots. And it's all about guidance and how to help people tell their best story and connect it to other stories. So that's how we can have cinematic universes like produced together that will rival Marvel's. It's because we all have our own characters within this very large shared story. And then, we as a production company are the ones making the quote unquote show, but anybody who produces content, we look at all that content and it's all canon. It's all officially part of our larger story. And then we just pick and choose what works for a particular episode, and then we shoot with professional actors and combine the footage together, and it looks awesome. So we have a season 0 out now that people can watch anywhere on our app, on justiceforhire.app. That's our first cinematic social network. And they can also watch on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. But, our next step is really all about making sure that anybody can do the same thing with their own storyline. Meaning, if you want to have your own show or your own film made with the community, We want you to be able to do that. So, our big question right now is to everybody is like, what's your cinematic universe? Like Gabe, Tiffany, like what if you could produce a show? I'm interested as a question to you. If you could produce a show with anybody in the world joining right from their phones, what would that show be?
Oh my gosh.
Oh God.
Okay, you go first.
I mean, I think I know you're probably gonna say the same thing I will.
What?
Probably something like kind of like dark and edgy with like vampires, like a monster film or something like that.
No, I was thinking like the Corleone's, Old Italy.
Old Italy, that too.
Yeah.
So amazing that those are both amazing answers, and I want to touch on the Corleone one for a moment. I want to touch on both of them. So one of the first thought exercises that I would say to investors years ago, when we were like quietly raising money on the New York startup scene, is I would talk about The Godfather, the first Godfather film, and I would say, do you remember the scene with the horse in the bed, the horse's head in the bed?
Yes, that was like a classic scene. Yes.
Yes, and the thought exercise was who saw it happen. Who working on the grounds of that house in that film? What other characters work at that house? What other characters live in that town? Who heard about what happened to that horse? What are their stories? What were they doing at that time?
Wow.
So when you think about story like that, and I think one of the greatest examples of a company that thinks about story like that is Marvel and Disney. And Hawkeye, the show, is a great example where they flash back to the very first Avengers film in the very first episode of Hawkeye.
Right.
And what's happening when we don't see Hawkeye? Like one of those alien ships crashes into a building where the little girl lives, who eventually becomes the newest Hawkeye. So
It's
to think about character and story as universes that are populated by any single character you see has its own life. And so somebody that walks by in the background of Iron Man 3 can be a major villain in Spider-Man Far. And that's exactly what happened in Spider-Man Far From Home. It's like, it's that guy from the background of that Tony Stark presentation. It's so if you think about it like that, then how come we can't open up every single movie to the crowd, to the fans, to the audience, to expand their own stories, playing characters within these story worlds? And so under that premise, if you look at a story as a gateway into an experience like that, then these films are no longer just passive experiences that we can thoroughly enjoy, but then we can start to populate these experiences under this potentially with the same tone of storytelling with our own characters. And so, one of the major requests that we get is to have a horror world. And lots of horror fans are and there are a bunch of different horror platforms that have experiences of varying levels of community participation. But what we're doing with Justice for Hire is just never been done before. So like our next, bringing this big circle back to what we're doing on WeFunder with our crowdfunding campaign, is that the next level of our technology is for us to be able to offer this to every single person to do exactly what I've done as a creator. I created Justice for Hire and I put it on our app. And now we have a global cast of people. We have I think it's like some 500 plus cast members, which is larger than most shows. And if you think of it in that term, in that terminology, like cast member, like that's crazy to have that many cast members in a show. And I'm an independent filmmaker. So any person, any creator, we just want to be able to give this same experience to creators all around the world, so that you can have your vampire world, so somebody else can have their elf world. And people can just tell stories together in these worlds, and we're going to find, so many amazing new characters. I used to say we would find the next 100 Deadpools on Real World, because within a few years, we're going to have more original characters on Real World than at Marvel and DC combined. Like, that's a reality. So, like, it's, to me, this is really the next level of cinema, and it's not just filmmaking. It's not gaming, but it takes elements of gaming, and it's not just social media because it's more about investment of time over time. You keep telling the story. You don't just do a one-off, and that's very much, I think, every filmmaker knows that it takes time to make these great stories, these grand stories. So it's, we call it social filmmaking. This is a very much a new area, a new industry that we're helping to shape. And we would love to have you guys make your worlds on there.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, our worlds could collide. We could have like a vampire mafia crossover.
Oh man, that's
the original.
Awesome.
Like these aristocratic families, it's just the original.
That's just the original. Well, that's okay.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
Jan.
awesome.
I have a question for you. Can anyone, just Joe Blow off the street, join in what you're doing, and how can they do that? How can they get to participate in what you're doing with Real World?
JusticeForHire.app is where anybody and everybody can go right now and join the cast of Justice for Hire, and it's free to join. Yeah, you can. The premise of Justice for Hire is Uber for heroes, where you can hire a hero or become one and get paid. So that premise allows us to have an infinitely expanding cast of heroes and villains and clients that hire them. So go right there right now. You can join the cast and start making scenes immediately. And you'll see a bunch of events on there. And you can focus on your own story, or you can tie yourself into the larger cinematic universe anytime you want.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, guys, you heard it. Go to Justice for Hire and start making some movies.
All right. We're going to go on a quick commercial break.
Jan, would you stay with us for some fun?
Sure. Of course.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back, guys.
Wow, Jan.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Welcome back, guys.
You've not downloaded the Anchor.fm app.
Do it.
Do it. Start making your own podcast today. Let's get back into the show.
The fun round.
All right. So what is your favorite city and why?
New York is my favorite city. And I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I believe that it is the capital of the Western world on planet Earth. And that, if you want the capital of the spiritual world, you go to India. And if you want the capital of the Western world, you go to New York, and specifically Manhattan, and specifically maybe, 14th Street and below is really where it's happening. But, God bless everybody on the entire island.
Okay, well, we're going to have to take that into consideration. I've never been to New York.
Never have I. We want to go.
So that's on our wish list.
It is definitely the energy conduit of at least of the States.
Okay.
Now, you grew up behind the scenes at all these comic companies. Do you have a favorite superhero?
I'm looking directly at my father's favorite superhero, the Silver Surfer, and I often I'm surrounded right now by an altar of all the these heroes that make me help me do what I do. So, but I really think the Silver Surfer is the most complete hero, and it's because he has the power cosmic, the power of creation. And I always loved how my father framed this character, because it was very, very close to my spiritual upbringing, and many concepts that I was afforded as a child. So I love seeing a superhero that embodied so much of these other cultures that I find very complementary to life in our society, without having the stigma of those cultures.
Right.
But so I'm a big proponent of take the best and leave the rest. And what I mean by that is, like, take the things that work in a system, and the things that don't work, don't bring them with you, so that you can build the best system. And I love seeing that materialize in a character, and this character bringing so much hope and healing, while also having this dichotomy of being the herald of Galactus,
right?
the eater of worlds.
Yes. You don't get Silver Surfer much when I ask these questions. Truly, yeah, I think it's a very interesting character.
Yeah, we actually saw
The old Fantastic Four movie
old Fantastic Four movie the other day.
So did we. My son just saw it for the first time 2 weeks ago. We saw the second one, The Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
Did he like it?
Yeah, honestly, I thought that second film was too short because the Silver Surfer was so good,
right.
And the Fantastic Four movies don't get a really good rap, but I think they're some of the better non-Marvel Studios Marvel films.
Right.
So I thought The Thing was excellent, and just like his whole performance, Michael Chiklis. His performance was wonderful, and he was a big actor. He was like in his heyday when Fantastic Four came out. Like he was on, I forgot what New York police drama he was on, but he was a very notable actor at that time. And Ian, I forgot the guy who his last name, who plays Reed Richards. Like he was coming hot off of it was around the time he was in King Arthur.
Okay.
And if you remember that King Arthur with Clive Owen, which is excellent, directed by Antoine Fuqua. It's a phenomenal movie. It's phenomenal.
I have to check that one out too. You're giving me a good movie watch list here today.
Okay, if you had to choose any superpower, what would it be?
I mean, I'd have to go right back to the power cosmic for the Silver Surfer. Yeah, just the ability to create, manifest anything. I mean, there's just his powers are almost endless, and I think that if I'm going to choose anything, I got to go with that one.
That's a good one. That's fair. That's a good one. I want telepathy. Telepathy. Can't say that 10 times fast.
Well, I mean, like to a certain extent, though. I mean, like depending on where your belief system lay, but I think that our brains really are formatted for wireless communication. If you look at some of the oldest texts in the world talk about this, and so there's definitely something there.
Absolutely, because I don't think we use every single square inch, and I think scientists have proven we don't, of our brain. So there's so much there that it's probably would be mind blowing for us to even tap into it. So absolutely.
Now, despite everything you've done, is there something on your bucket list that you're still scratching towards?
What I'm doing with Real World right now is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
Oh, it's awesome.
That's awesome.
When it comes to galvanizing groups to take action within a single story. And that story can be for a movie, it could be for a show, it could be for some goodwill effort that we want to do as a global community in the real world, the actual physical real world, not our company. And so to me, it's a tool to do that, and I'm really grateful to zero in on that in my life. I think finding your purpose, everyone's purpose is different. To be able to find that is such a great privilege, and I'm really grateful to have found mine.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That is really cool to say that you found your passion. That's really amazing.
Right. Now it's getting close to October. Halloween coming up soon. Would you rather just watch ghost movies or go look for them yourself?
Honestly, like I feel like they find me. And I'm good. And so I'm not a big fan of scary movies, but I do deeply appreciate the techniques, the cinematic techniques of the genre.
Right.
So I think the world can be honestly scary enough where I don't need to freak myself out anymore. So I'm like, man, like, you know what? Like, how can I bring some light? I have both Spawn. I don't know if you're fans of Todd McFarlane's Spawn.
Oh my God, that brings me back.
So I got Spawn #1 on my desk, and I got Gunslinger Spawn #1 right now. And my son's first published art as an artist is in Gunslinger. No, it's in Scorched, which is another Spawn book, #7, where he had his fan art published this past summer.
Oh, wow.
And so we're big Spawn fans, or he's a huge Spawn fan. So, and he got to meet Todd McFarlane at Comic-Con this year in San Diego and get his fan art signed by him, and it was great. So, I mean, I love Spawn. I love how, I love how creepy it could be.
Right.
But I also think, I'm like, man, like this, I want to see characters bring more light to the world. And I don't mean that in when I was a little kid, I used to think that meant cheesy, like, oh yeah, everything's gonna be nice and good, like just really, really soft, buttery, stuff that's not like cool, like visceral action. And I didn't realize that you could connect the two. And I think that there really is a beautiful way for us to heal so much of the pain and the challenges in the world, and the things that might generate the desire for so much negative or dark or horrific images.
Right.
And I think there's a way for us to use the same techniques, but for a different purpose. And that's something I'm honestly deeply exploring with season 1 of Justice for Hire, because we're pulling a lot from cinema as a whole to produce a new type of series, especially since it's the first series from Real World. So we're the intention to put a lot of light into the world while also kicking a lot of ass at the same time is a top priority.
That's good.
That's good.
That's
definitely.
really good. There's always in your heart for a character that has that redeeming arc that does bring light into the world. So yeah.
Absolutely.
If you could only take 5 things to a desert island, what would they be?
Huh. Well, I have to speak from right now.
Okay.
And, for some reason I had to be on a desert island right now, I'd probably bring this book that's been around me since childhood that I haven't read yet. So I want to read a book I haven't read. It's called The Holy Man and the Psychiatrist.
Oh.
Interesting.
And I'm looking at this right now. Sai Baba, The Holy Man and the Psychiatrist. So I need to read this. And a friend gave it to me for my birthday, I think earlier this year. And again, I've seen this book in my household since I was little. I never read it. So I was like, okay, this is probably a sign that I need to read this.
Right.
And, so I bring that. What else? I'd bring the... Is there food on this desert island, or like?
You could find it.
You could probably find it, but if you want to bring some in, that might be better.
That might be better.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd probably bring mostly. I can't believe I'm saying this because I used to hate reading when I was a little kid, but I'd probably bring mostly books.
Oh wow.
And because I really feel like there's something in these. There are certain written texts that have within them deeply researched truths for society. And if I'm on a desert island and perhaps have to start a new society, I should probably have some reference point that's already written down, that I don't have to go through do all that work for, build on other people's work.
Right.
And so when other people start coming around, I'm like, hey, just look at this book. And they're like, oh yeah, now I get it. Okay, great. Now we can all build together.
That's true. That's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea at all. Okay. So chess or checkers?
You have to pick one.
Chess.
Yeah, chess.
Yeah.
I could do without checkers, yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing checkers for a while, for a long time.
Really? I haven't been entertained by checkers in a long time myself.
See?
Yeah.
Our chess matches get kind of brutal. Since we're both very competitive.
Very competitive people.
We get really kind of bad with each other when we play chess.
Any board game, like even Monopoly.
Yeah, it's kind of bad over here. Board games, period.
So my coach was on the U.S. Tai Chi push hands team that I took over for my coach, Josh Waitskin, which was the chess prodigy, the child chess prodigy that the film Searching for Bobby Fischer was based on.
Oh my gosh,
and
that's awesome.
So he recruited myself and my father onto the U.S. Tai Chi push hands team when I was just still in college at NYU. And we would hang out, and he'd come over the house, and sometimes I'm playing chess with some of my other buddies, and I never got to play with him. And I always wanted to, just because I'm like, how fast can he beat me? Like, like,
Right.
like I was always so interested in that. I'm like, man, like, I think this is, I'd love to see that. So still, I was just texting with him a couple of days ago too. So I still got to set that up.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to set that up. That's that should be on your bucket list. That's one of the items.
Yeah. What is your favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few things pop into my mind. It's probably a three-way tie between Black Forest chocolate cake.
Oh yeah.
Tiramisu.
Oh yeah.
And this Thai banana spring roll.
Ooh.
With like it's like a spring roll with like banana in it that has honey drizzled on it, and oftentimes served in a banana leaf, wrapped in and so it's pretty spectacular.
That sounds
awesome. Yeah.
Okay, if you had $1 billion, what would you do with it?
Split it up equally or appropriately with all the people that helped to make our first $1 billion film on Real World, which will absolutely happen.
Absolutely. You put it up there now.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
yes.
That's one of the things we're going for. Like, man, one day there's gonna be $1 billion plus grossing Real World film, and everybody who worked on that on our social network is going to get paid appropriately and in perpetuity, because that's how we're doing things. Because when you create something, not only should you and society benefit, but your children and your children's children should benefit.
Absolutely.
So that's a big thing for us.
Yeah, one person to give a shout out to. Who is it, and why did you pick them?
I'd say shout out to my dad. I'm Jan C. Childress. He's such a inspiring human being. He was in politics before comics, and just kind of I think about my dad on a regular basis of how much his demeanor equipped me and helped me learn, just learn in so many different ways of how to use language to bring people together. And so I'm just deeply grateful. Just deeply grateful for that. And language, again, translates. It's not just words, but it's physical language. It's visual language. The art of storytelling, cinema, etc. Like all these things are interconnected. It's all communication. So I'm just deeply grateful for having him as a father.
Wow, that's a great shout out.
That is, definitely. What is one piece of advice you would give to people who want to be in the entertainment industry?
I have 3 M's, and that is meditate, movement, meaning have your own movement discipline, and mentorship. Find mentors that are people that you want to learn from, and ask them to be your mentor, and directly ask. And when I say meditate, I don't mean running is my meditation. Like I don't meditate, I run. Running is my meditation. I mean actually go like train, sit down and meditate. They're not the same thing. So it doesn't matter how peaceful you feel. Like go and sit down and meditate.
Right.
In addition to all that you have going on, what's next for you?
Next is closing our successful WeFunder campaign. Honestly, it is. People can find us on wefunder.com/realworld. That's REELWURLD, because it's real, like a movie reel, and you because you're in it, and that is a key next step for us. If we are going to build stories together as a global community, we need a company like Real World that actually cares about people. And, I was just on the phone this week with some, very seasoned Hollywood executives that totally get it. And they get that Hollywood doesn't really care about people. They care about butts and seats and ticket sales. And there is if you have a corporation that is focused on that's built on the foundation, it is very hard to shift. As Mark Klasfeld told me. Mark Klasfeld, if you don't know who he is one of the most prolific music video directors of our time. He's of the generation of Mark Webb, who did The Amazing Spider-Man and all those guys. He did Nelly's first video. He did Dark Horse from Katy Perry.
Wow.
So I used to work for Mark. Mark was my first internship at NYU, and he's also an NYU guy. And years ago, probably 8 years ago, I had a phone call with Mark, just kind of catching up with him because I had to ask him about his work as a commercial and music video director, and versus he's only done a handful of, maybe even less than a handful of feature films. And I asked him what's going on, does he want to do that? Does he want to do more features? And he said something so powerful to me that it's really burned in my mind. He said that when something goes wrong on a big ship and you're going the wrong direction, it's hard to change direction because the ship is so large.
That's true.
That's true.
And when you had the music videos and commercials for him were a smaller ship, there was much easier to change direction. And I always thought about that's really profound because he broke it down into schedule. He goes and he works on 3 days on a weekend, 3-day weekend to shoot, a production, maybe prep for a week maximum. And then he's creatively satisfied. They get paid, and then they're on to the next job, and the client's happy, everybody's happy. He does obviously spectacular work. So it's hard to change the course of these large ships, and it's hard to change the course of all these studios that treat us as audience members like we're numbers. So that means we actually simply need new studios, new organizations that are really focused on caring about people, and recognizing that every person's perspective actually really does matter. And it's not fluff. It's like if a person feels bad and then goes and does something bad to somebody else, and then that has ripple effects in that person's life, etc., then we have a systemic problem. And so we are in the age right now, from a storytelling perspective, of the collective journey story rather than the hero's journey story. We don't need one hero to go out and save the day and bring back fire to the village so we can all have fire. We need to work together to solve the systemic problems. Everyone needs to be a hero. Everyone needs to step up. So that means that the organizations that are organizing people actually have to care about everybody, everyone's heart. So that is very much at the core of Real World. And it's recognizing that your story is the greatest story ever told. And we need to help you tell your story so that we can all come together and tell the greatest stories that we've ever seen. And
that's awesome.
So, that Avengers Endgame moment is, to me, that's the height of American cinema. The next big thing that we're going to see together as a culture is going to be movies and shows that we make together. And that's the main focus of Real World.
Wow. And it's going to happen. Like I said, you put it out there, it's going to happen.
Oh, wait, it is in the midst of happening.
Absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful.
Now, what is the one thing you want our audience to know about you?
That I love them.
All right. And then my final question is, where can people find you on social media? Oh,
at Justice for Hire everywhere for our first show, at Real World everywhere for our company that's built the Cinematic Social Network, patent pending. And I'm at Jan Lucanus, that's JanLucanus, everywhere else.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
We really appreciate your time.
We deeply appreciate you guys, too.
Thank you.
And thanks, Lisa. Love you, Lisa.
We love you, Lisa.
Love you, Lisa.
Love you, Lisa.
Thanks, Jan.
Did you enjoy the show? I know we did. Make sure to check out Real World and Justice for Hire. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.